Alright, so as promised, this video is going to be about cost leadership. So despite the fact that the textbook shows cost leadership as one of four quadrants in their five generic strategies, and I'll talk to you about the fifth one later, really what they're showing is for a cost leadership strategy to work, you need to have the lowest costs in the industry, and you need to have the broadest market in the industry. Now I'm going to detangle this quadrant for you, this 2x2 matrix with the overlay of cost leadership and differentiation. And when I say I'm going to untangle it, here's what I want you to do, okay? I want you to think of strategic management and business level strategy as being a continuum. When I say a continuum, it's essentially a line, and that line goes on infinitely all the way as low as we can possibly go. And I say infinitely, but it's really just that we don't know where the bottom is. And on the other end of the line, down on the other end, we have differentiation. And what I mean when I say the other end of the line is that we don't know just how high our customers are willing to go. Now, in Globus, you have a line that basically has 100 points on it, and that line is from 0.0 PQ rating all the way to 10 PQ rating, and it's broken down by tenths. So you could have a 4.0 PQ rating. You could have an 8.0 PQ rating. Okay, so cost leadership is on the low end of the strategic continuum. A lot of people love cost leadership because it's so easy to understand, but it's not quite so easy to implement. Okay, so with cost leadership, because it's on the low end of the spectrum, we're going to be selling products for a lower than average price, not necessarily the cheapest in the market, but a lower than average price. It's got to be a volume strategy, because typically we're going to have lower selling price, lower gross margin per product, right? So we've got to sell more in order to earn an equal profit, okay? So cost leadership is about having the lowest total costs in the industry. It's not about selling for the lowest price. It's about having the lowest cost. So I'll take this from the textbook. There's no strategy that's superior to the others. There's no winning strategy. Your strategy is what it is, and who wins is typically the company that creates the superior value for their customers and for their shareholders, okay? So cost leadership is about reducing our costs. We want to have the minimal features acceptable to our customers. We want to sell it at the lowest reasonable price, okay? Not the lowest selling price. When I say cost, I'm talking about what it costs us to make it. When I say price, I'm talking about what our customers pay for it, okay? We sell standardized goods and services when we have a cost leadership strategy. That's to say that they're really just kind of a commodity. It's very there's very little differentiating it or making it distinctive. There may be nuances, but for the most part, it's pretty standard, pretty standardized products. So how do we get to be the cost leader? We have process innovations, new production, distribution methods, new techniques to allow us to operate more efficiently. We can achieve economies of scale because our company is selling more. We have the opportunity to achieve economies of scale. If we can integrate horizontally, we may have opportunity to create economies of scope as well, and that's something we'll talk about a little later, okay? So in order to achieve a cost leadership strategy, implement the cost leadership, you need to have A very efficient factory. You need to have it needs to be very efficient and well utilized. You need to have a really tight cost control structure and really low overhead. You need to minimize your cost of goods sold. Typically, you would minimize research and development and service as well. Your factory needs to be efficient. In other words, we need to get the most bang for our buck out of our human resource and our capital resource as well. And then we need to monitor the cost of activities provided by outsiders. So this kind of goes against what you might normally think, but I'm going to give you a direct application here for Globus. On that corporate social responsibility, one of the options that you have is to put in a supplier monitoring program. Okay, that supplier monitoring program can help you to be the cost leader. And in addition, with cost leadership, we can also simplify the production process. And that typically would mean fewer setups. That's going to typically mean fewer product. Within our camera and our drone, we have right now, I believe, 3 camera models and 2 drone models. So simplifying the production process would simply mean that you don't have 8 models for each, right? Your production process is very standard, okay? There are some risks. What we do may become obsolete, and our customers may not buy what we're selling. It is very easily to imitate the cost leader's strategy. And here's a real downfall of cost leadership. In an industry, there can only be one cost leader. When we say cost leader, we're talking about the company that has the lowest total cost of production. Okay? Literally one, right? Just one. So if you attempt to be the cost leader and you're not the cost leader, then you have a failed strategy. And that's probably the biggest risk. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to lose money. It just simply means that you did not achieve the strategic position that you would like to achieve. Okay? So that's a little bit about cost leadership. There's obvious examples that you can think about. Walmart, they have a cost leadership strategy. Dollar General has a cost leadership strategy. Walmart, I'll just use them for an example and talk about how they tightly control the production process of their suppliers, and their real competitive advantage is information management and controlling a large part of the supply chain. They have a lot of market power because they control so much of the supply chain. That's worked very well for them to have the reputation of being the low price leader, okay? And that's not always the case. They don't necessarily always have the lowest price, despite what the price cutting smiley face, I don't know what they call him, despite what he says, they don't always slash prices. They don't always have the lowest prices in the industry, but there's the perception that they have the lowest prices in the industry. So just to wrap up cost leadership, one way that you can leverage your cost leadership strategy is you can sell your product for less than the competitors, okay? However, another way to leverage your cost leadership strategy is to sell your product for the same price as your competitors. And when you do that, because your costs are lower than your competitors, if your price is the same, then you have a higher gross profit margin per product, okay? So that could lead you to superior financial performance. Up next, we'll have the differentiation strategy.